Defense, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Kelsey Fitzsimmons.
Did you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now at hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
You may have a seat and put yourself right up to that mic. What's that?
Thank you, Your Honor. May I inquire?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, miss.
Good morning.
State your name and spell your last name.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons, Fitzsimmons.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
What's the town of your residence?
Currently, Newburyport.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Methuen,
Methuen?
Massachusetts.
And did you live there your whole life?
Most of it, yes.
Did you go to high school there?
I did.
And where did you go?
Methuen High School,
When did you graduate?
2015.
And you lived there with your parents and your family?
Yeah, I lived with my mom and my dad. There were 2 different houses.
Tell the judge a little bit about your upbringing and your family and who's who.
So I have my mom, my dad, my mom Lauren, my dad Steven, my older brother, my biological older brother, Steven Jr., and then I have my stepfather, William Page, his 2 kids that I consider my brother and sister, Madison and William.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the names.
My younger brother and sister are Madison and William.
Madison and William. Did you say that they were stepson?
They're yes.
Try to keep your voice up.
Okay, sorry.
Use the mic.
Okay.
Kind of like I am, a little bit like that.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Kelsey. So, you guys are a close family, right?
Yes,
And they've been with you through this process the whole time, right?
the whole time.
When did you graduate high school?
2015.
Did you go to college?
I did.
And where did you get your degree from?
I got my degree from Fisher College. I got my Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice.
What year was that?
2020.
What were some of the awards and distinctions you received at Fisher College?
I think my junior year, I was inducted into the Criminal Justice Honor Society. In my senior year, I was voted in as the president of the Criminal Justice Club, and I just worked closely with campus police there and the advisor of the Criminal Justice Club.
Did you work while you were in college?
I did.
Where'd you work?
I worked for the college as a work study, and I also worked as like a host / waitress down the street at a restaurant called Cheers.
Did you do any security work?
Yeah, in 2016, I was hired by Fenway Park Security, and I believe I worked there in 2017. And like throughout all of Fisher College, I worked for campus police as a work study, like a dorm proctor, checking IDs of students.
Okay. After graduating Fisher College, you had the B. Is it a BA or a BS?
Yes.
BS in criminal justice.
Yes.
And what was your kind of goal for your life and your career with that degree?
When I graduated, it was the peak of COVID, so everything got a little confusing on what my next steps were. My plan originally was to try to go straight to a police academy, but when I graduated, there was no police academies running, so I decided to, because I love school, I decided to further my education and go to law school.
Where did you go? And tell us about law school a little bit.
I went to Massachusetts School of Law. I did about 3 semesters, and then some academies started to run again.
And did that change your pathway?
It did.
What happened?
The Essex County Sheriff's Department started doing police sheriff's department academies again. So I applied to be a corrections officer, and that was in 2020. And I went through their academy in 2021.
Where's that academy?
Their academy is at the Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill. Massachusetts.
And what was the course of study? Just in general, what did it entail and how long was it?
It was 3 months. It had to do with just the training of being a corrections officer. Our whole job was safety and security of the inmates that were housed in the jail. So it went a lot into safety and security.
So you spent 3 months at the Sheriff's Academy,
Yes,
and you were hired by the Essex County Sheriff.
I was, yes.
When was that roughly?
That was in 2021. I think it was September of 2021.
What was your kind of original first assignment when you got to the Sheriff's Department? How did you start there?
I worked in housing. I was assigned to housing the whole time I worked there.
Did you have any other jobs while you were at the Essex Sheriff?
When you pick up a overtime shift there, they kind of just throw you in where somebody is needed. So I did a lot of different jobs just through all the overtime I worked, which included transportation of inmates to and from court. I would work in programs. They have church and school for the inmates that reside there. And there's outer perimeter security where you drive a cruiser around the perimeter of the jail to ensure no one's coming in or out. I did things like that on my overtimes.
Okay, and in terms of the transport, you were actually the person that kind of comes to here to court, goes into lockup, delivers prisoners, picks up prisoners, brings them back?
Yes.
Okay. How long were you at the Essex Sheriff?
About 2 years.
And at that point you had a career path decision, right? A
Yes.
different decision.
I did.
And what was that decision?
I always knew I wanted to be a police officer.
And was there some opportunities that came up in that respect?
Yes. While I was working for the Sheriff's Department, I had moved to North Andover. I really liked the town I lived in, and I wanted to work in it as a police officer.
So what'd you do?
I applied to the North Andover Police Department.
Did you interview with Lieutenant Daly, was it?
I did. He was on a panel interview. They call it like an oral board. It included Lieutenant Daly and several other members of the North Andover Police Department.
And I take it that you're not going to get hired there unless they approve you.
Yes.
And that happened, and you were hired?
Yeah, they do an extensive hire check.
Background check and so
Yeah,
forth.
like there's a lot that goes with it.
What you would expect in terms of a police officer getting hired.
Yes.
What's the first step when you get hired as a police officer? What do you do next?
You have to go to the police academy for 6 months.
So you've been through a 3-month Essex Sheriff Police Academy, Training Academy, and now you're about to start a 6-month North Andover Police Academy training, right?
Yes.
And where did that training take place?
That also took place down the hall, Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill.
And you spent 6 months going to that?
6 months, yes.
Was that, is that something where you like stayed there the whole time, or did you come and go? Did you commute? How does that work?
I commuted. I got there in the morning, left sometime in the evening, and we had weekends off. So it was 5 days a week.
Okay. When did you graduate from there?
I graduated in May of 2024.
And did you run for any positions within the academy that they have in your class?
Yes. While I was in the police academy, I ran for treasurer, and I became the treasurer of my class.
And what does that entail?
That entails everything financial through our academy. We had like academy dues. I would collect them, and we would purchase things that we wanted, such as like sweatshirts and sweatpants to wear for our PT days, as well as an academy sweatshirt. I also planned our graduation party. So I had to book it, collect the funds for it, and plan it, essentially.
And is it a situation where there's different classes going on at once, like class of 2020, class of 2021, like that?
Yeah.
And you were the class of 20?
Well, my class was called Rock 5. So I don't know how the numbers go, but the one before me was 4 and the one after me was 6. So I was ROC 5.
All right. And when did ROC 5 graduate?
May of 2024.
And you graduated with the class?
I did.
And what was your first assignment with the North Andover PD?
You first go to patrol on FTO, and FTO is meaning you're with a field training officer, so you ride with somebody in the same cruiser for a period of time.
Who were your field training officers?
So I had several, because you do different shifts. I had field training on day shift. My field training officer was Officer Tierney. I had field training on the 4 to midnight shift, and my field training officers were Officer Furman, now Detective Furman, and Officer Sousa.
The entire time you were there any other FTOs that you had? Just to kind of list them all out.
I think there's multiple officers there that are FTO trained, but those were the ones that were assigned to me to train me.
So, Ms. Fitzsimmons, in your employ at the North Andover PD, you assumed the job of a regular patrol officer at some point, I take it?
Yes, I was a patrol officer.
And after you finished with field training officers, do they have some sort of a say and report back to the administration or the supervisors about how you're functioning?
Yeah, so the supervisor on your shift, your field training officer gives them, I think it's a weekly report of how I did on calls and what calls we went on together and how I performed, stuff like that. And eventually, I think I don't know exactly how many weeks I was on field training, but after it's complete, the sergeant will take you in his cruiser and you drive his cruiser and respond to calls or make traffic stops. And then he decides if you are signed off on. And I was signed off, and that day I got my own cruiser.
And when was that, if you remember, just roughly?
I think it was in end of June or early July of 2024.
And just a few things I want to just tick off on the list of things a police officer does. Did you serve restraining orders?
I have before.
Have you testified in court?
I have.
And you've made arrests?
I have.
Now, at the time, moving over to your personal life, at some point you met someone named Justin Aylaian, right?
Yes.
And what was your experience with Justin Aylaian in a nutshell?
My experience in a nutshell, we met through Facebook. We went on a few dates. We ended up hitting it off. While I was in the academy, we were dating. He is a North Andover firefighter. At my police graduation, he pinned me, and then I would see him on calls sometimes, and we eventually moved in with each other. We got engaged. We had a baby.
And what was the baby's name? What's the baby's name?
My son's name is Caden.
How old is he today?
He's 13 months.
And Justin Aylaian is the father?
He is.
What happened on June 30th of 2025?
On June 30th of 2025, I woke up in the morning.
Let me be more specific.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did he take any actions relative to you in terms of your relationship that day?
Yes.
And what did he do?
He obtained a restraining order against me.
Is it fair to say that he broke up with you via a restraining order?
Yes. I did not speak to him. I realized our relationship was over when a restraining order was handed to me.
So let's rewind the events of the event. So that morning, were you home?
I was.
Who was home?
So my sister slept over the night previous, so June 29th to June 30th. So she was over in the morning.
Maddie?
That's Madison, yes. I was with my son. I had work at 1 p.m. I had to go to CPR training at 1 p.m.
Okay. Now, had you been out of work for a while?
I was, yes.
And when did you first go out of work?
I worked up until I gave birth. Caden came 5 weeks early, so I wasn't expecting it. So I went out basically the day I gave birth to him.
And his birthday is what?
February 16th, 2025.
Now, when you were seeking to go back to work, did you get cleared to go back to work in June of 2025?
Yes.
Did that entail going through certain trainings and getting reviewed and stuff?
I did.
What was the event on the 30th that you had to do to finish that off?
I had CPR training at 1 p.m. on the 30th scheduled.
Was that your last thing you had to kind of go through?
That was it. Yeah.
Were you seeking to see Justin Aylaian that day?
Yes, we had spoken through text and on the phone in the morning. I was asking if he would come home because he hadn't been home in days to be with Caden while I went to work. And his response basically was, I can pick him up and watch him. And I said, you're not a babysitter. So there was a bit of argument about that. You're
Next argument.
yeah, I was like, you're his dad. You're not a babysitter. You can come home. I don't understand picking him up and watching him. That was very odd for me to hear as his father.
Moms don't like when dads say they're going to babysit their own kid, right?
Yes, like you're dad.
And at some point, just to kind of cut to the chase on that, you made a plan to meet up in North Andover?
Yeah, there was a lot of texting back and forth. He originally said yes, and then he said no, and then he said, I'll meet you tomorrow. And I said, you have work tomorrow? That doesn't make any sense. He worked a 24-hour overnight shift. So
Was there something about gas money as well?
yeah, he said that he couldn't drive from Stowe, Massachusetts to North Andover because he had no gas in his truck. And I just was trying to get him to meet me. I'm like, we need to figure this out. I go to work in a couple hours. Like, we need to figure this out. He called me while I was driving to work and said, I'm on my way to North Andover.
Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Let me just rewind.
Okay.
Rewind you a little bit. So there's some texting about this, right? And the texting that you have and that's been kind of passed around in the case, it doesn't end up with, okay, I'll come and meet you at the North Andover Common, right?
No.
So was that arrangement made outside of those texts?
Yes, like looking back now, I think it was strategic, but
All right, well, just, I don't want to
it's just my opinion.
yeah, I don't want to ask for your opinion
Okay,
on it.
sorry.
I just want to, factually, I'd like to ask you, were there a couple calls back and forth that
Yes.
kind of set that up once and for all?
Yes, he called me on my way to work. I decided I'm gonna bring my son with me, which wasn't a big deal, but when I was on my way, he calls
So
me.
hold on a second, just to be, yes.
I just need to confer with the short staff. Mr. Ring, can you turn the? You're at sidebar. Short break, reset, and I'll come back in a couple of minutes.
All right.
Order your session, please be seated.
We're back to work on the Kelsey Fitzsimmons.
Okay. And Ms. Fitzsimmons, could you retake the stand? Thank you. Take your time. Thank you. Just again, pull yourself up to that mic.
Yep.
Then make yourself comfortable.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. So Ms. Fitzsimmons, the last discussion we were having was that you were arranging to meet Mr. Aylaian at the North Andover Common, is that right?
Yes.
And did he call you about it when you were on your way to CPR training?
He called me, I think I was putting Caden in his car seat. I missed it. And when I got on the road, I called him back.
And what was the conversation about meeting him?
It was quick. It was, Kelsey, I'm on my way to North Andover right now. My mom just gave me gas money. I'll meet you at the common at 2. And I said, okay, I love you, bye. And the phone call had already hung up.
And after that, you went to work
I went to work
with Caden.
with Caden.
And what was the schedule? What was on the schedule for today, for that day at work?
It was a 1-hour CPR training. So it was gonna go to about 2 p.m.
So it was 1 to 2?
Yes.
Did you get there on time?
I think I got there a couple minutes early.
What was the layout when you got there? Who was there? Where'd you go? What was the, general kind of mood of you going there?
So I knew it was going to be held in the community room. I was told prior that's where it was going to be held. So right when you walk through the officer's entrance of the police department, the community room is the first door on your right. So I just entered right through there.
And you had your baby?
I did.
And it's fair to say this isn't a visit to the police department where you're in full uniform or anything, right?
No, I was in a t-shirt.
And that's because you're going to be training, working on, those rubber dummies that you
Yeah.
trained for CPR with, right?
Yes.
Who met you when you got to the police department? Who was there?
Detective Gordon was conducting the training.
I'm sorry, did you say Gordon with a G?
Gordon, yeah, Gordon.
And you saw him?
Yes, he was conducting the CPR training.
Did you see any other friend and colleague officers around that time period?
I saw Lieutenant Domenico as well.
And did you have a chat with him?
We didn't really talk because I was in the middle of the training. It was just we waved to each other when he was walking out of the door.
What happened with Caden while you were doing the training?
I asked Detective Gordon if he wanted to hold him because I figured he hasn't held a baby in a long time. So it's kind of funny seeing guys that haven't held a baby in a long time and they're like, but
Did he hold the baby?
he did, yeah.
And is he someone that you trust to hold your baby?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you let just anybody hold your baby?
No, Detective Gordon was my drill instructor for my 6-month police academy. So I knew him more because of that. I saw him every day for 6 months.
You trusted him?
Yeah,
And how did the training go?
it went fine. Normal. Passed.
How long did it take?
It takes about an hour.
What time did you finish?
I think it was around 2 p.m.
Who else did you see while you were at the station?
Just Lieutenant Domenico. I was supposed to pick up my radio from an administration office upstairs. And I had texted the person that was giving me the radio and said, I'm just going to grab it tomorrow because I was like more focused on go to the park. So I was like, I can just drive to the station tomorrow and grab my radio.
Were you, quote unquote, on the schedule?
Yes.
Start soon?
Yes.
And what was the schedule when you were going to start?
I was going on to the day shift, which is 8 to 4 p.m. And I was supposed to start on July 4th.
You left the police station at about what time?
Detective Gordon walked me to my car. I probably pulled out around 2:05.
Where'd you go?
I drove down Osgood Street to the Common.
Who's this guy, Hunter Hassan?
That was one of Justin and I's mutual friends that lives in the town of North Andover.
Did you go by his house?
Yes, so the only logical way to get to the Common from the police station is to take Osgood Street, which is what I did, and he lives on that street. So I had to drive by his house when I was on my way to the Common.
Did you see anything at his house that surprised you?
Yes.
What did you see?
When I drove by, I saw Justin's truck, And at first I thought nothing of it. I thought maybe he got into town before I got out of training and stopped in, like that would be normal. But then I started noticing other cars I recognized there as well. And
Whose cars were those?
I saw my maid of honor's car, Katrina Caruso. I also saw people standing outside near his pool. I know I saw his sister, Courtney, Justin's sister, and I know I saw Michelle Mitchell, which was another one of my bridesmaids. So I was like, what is going on?
And this meeting was not something that you knew about?
No, I was supposed to be meeting Justin, and Justin was at our mutual friend's house with people, and I just like was so thrown off. I was confused.
Did you actually see Justin as part of those people you saw around his pool?
I drove by quick. I saw a group of people. I recognized the trucks and the people I did definitively see, yes. I know Justin was there.
From the truck?
Yeah, from his truck.
Okay, so in terms of your confusion, are you wondering if he's there or if he got a ride to the common or something like that? What did you just stop there and say, hey, what are you doing?
Well, because I was just driving by, and then I was like, well, that was weird. So I tried calling Justin, and then that's when it just like communication stopped. No, he was not answering my texts. He was not answering any more phone calls. I even went as far to text his friend Hunter and say, what is going on right now? And am I allowed to say what Hunter said back to me?
So did he respond to you?
He did, yes.
Did it affect your state of mind about what was going on?
No, it confused me even more because he said, oh, everyone's just meeting up for people who forgot things at the house from the bachelorette party that happened a couple of days prior. He said everyone was meeting there to pick up things that they forgot. And I was like, meeting in North Andover. And I was trying to make sense of it. And I was like,
Did that add to your confusion?
yeah, because I was like, this person lives.
Yard, do you have a question?
I just, so who said this and how? I didn't catch.
So I had texted when Justin had stopped answering me.
Yeah,
I texted his friend whose house he was at, and I knew he was there because I had to drive by from.
this is Hunter.
This is
Okay,
Hunter,
all right,
yeah.
Now I get it.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
So I texted Hunter, and he told me everybody was meeting there to get things that they left at the bachelorette party. And it's like, that's in my mind, that made me even more confused and didn't make sense because everybody lives here, there. Why meet in North Andover?
Let me stop you right there. So as a result of that kind of adding to your mindset, sounds like adding to your confusion, right?
Confusion, yes.
Did you stick to the plan to go meet him at the common or did you divert somewhere else?
No, I went to the common.
And you got there, what time?
It was probably like 2:10.
And did you wait there with Caden?
I did.
And approximately how long did you wait, if you can remember?
It was at least an hour. It could have been more.
Did he ever show up?
He never showed up.
What time, did you make a decision to get out of there at some point?
Yeah, well, I was receiving other phone calls, which were adding to my confusion.
Not what was said, but from whom?
They were from Michelle.
And she was the woman who testified here yesterday, right?
Yes.
And she indicated that she was trying to meet up with you and you
To
were
get coffee.
trying to focus on
I said,
meeting with Justin.
trying to meet Justin.
Okay.
Like, I love you. I'll call you later. I'm trying to meet my fiance at work.
To Michelle, you said that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go home after that?
Yes.
What time did you go home?
It was at least an hour after 2 p.m. So sometime around maybe 3:30, because I know I was waiting a while at the park. Caden's bottle had run out of milk, so her formula, I had to go home.
Now, as you sat here for the last couple of days, you've heard a lot of business about where you parked your car. Do you remember that? So you didn't park in your driveway, right?
No.
And you're adjacent to a school at 125 Phillips Brooks Road, right?
My neighbor to my right
Yeah.
is school.
I should say for the record, your home is 125 Phillips Brooks
That's
Road,
my,
single family house in North Andover, right next to what school?
the Atkinson Elementary School.
Okay. And there's a big parking lot next to your fence line.
Yes.
And when you came back from the common, you parked in there.
Yes.
Why did you park in there?
Because I didn't know what was going on. I knew something was going on. I first have my fiance just not showing up to meet me and not talking to me anymore. And then somebody that doesn't know I saw them trying to call me, and they're trying to meet up with me. I'm trying to meet up with Justin. And a bunch of other people were there that didn't make sense. And I thought they were going to come to my house or something. So I didn't want anyone to know I was home. So I just parked at the school.
Okay. Did this have anything to do with the North Andover Police
It
Department?
had nothing to do with the North Andover Police Department.
So you parked at the school, and as a young new mom, you probably had a lot of stuff you had to carry.
I had his diaper bag. I had him in his little carrier. And I think I had my phone in my hand and my house keys.
And you walked around and you went to your door.
Yeah, it was genuinely a 60-second walk to my car to my house.
Sure.
From my car to my house.
And you went into that porch door that we've seen on the video here.
Yep, my front door, it leads to a porch.
And then you get up on the porch and you make a left into another door into the house, right?
Yep.
Okay. What happened when you first got home? What'd you do?
I made Caden a bottle. I called my mom. I asked my mom if she would come over because it was, what do I do? Like, what's going on?
So you wanted some support from mom.
Yeah, so like advice. My mom's my best friend. I knew she'd come over and maybe like have a
Figure
different.
this out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll withdraw that, Judge. I'm just trying to. What was your?
Mr. Brado, I'm sorry. I assume the objection is for leading?
Repeatedly, yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, if you can just stay away from leading, thank you.
What was your state of mind about having mom come over?
I was sad. I was really confused. And I wanted her advice.
How far away does your mother live?
She lives in Methuen, so her house is about 7 to 8 minutes away, but I think she was on her way home from work at the time, and she has to drive right by my house,
Okay.
or my old house.
How was Caden at the common and then getting home? How was he behaving in terms of fussiness, or was he okay, or sleeping, or quiet, or what?
I ran out of his bottle while at the common. I thought I'd brought enough. I think if our plans played out, I would have had enough for taking a walk in the common. But because I was waiting for so long, I ran out of his bottle and he started crying. I drove right home.
And then at home, you made another bottle and started to give him the bottle.
Yes, beat him.
Okay. What time did your mother get there? Approximately.
Like maybe 5 to 10 minutes after I got home.
And did you visit with your mom for a while and consult with her on the situation?
Yeah, we sat on my couch while I fed Caden. She did my house was messy, so she was just trying to pick up around the house a little bit for me. And we were talking.
Okay. And did she leave at some point?
She did.
When was that?
I probably had her over for about an hour. So maybe like 5 o'clock she left.
Was her car in the driveway?
Hers was, yes.
And obviously she got in the car and left in her car.
Yeah, I told her that I was gonna be packing and probably going camping with my son, which is normal for me. My family owns land. We call it our happy place. I've been going there since I was a baby, so I was gonna go there to clear my mind since Justin wasn't going to meet up with me. I just figured I don't have work till the 4th, so that's what I'm gonna do. And
The idea of sitting around.
Sustain.
I just didn't. Oh, sorry.
Yes, sustain. So next question.
Why did you want to go up to the land?
To clear my mind, I've brought Caden there 2 times before, and for 4-month-old baby, he crushed it up there. He loved it. So I just thought, I texted Justin, I'm going to my land. He knows what that is. He proposed to me there. He knows I call it my happy place, and I told him I'll send you pictures when I get service, and I love you because there's not good service up there. And that was the last thing I ever said to Justin.
When your mom pulled out of the driveway, did you get a visit from the North Andover Police?
I heard someone knocking on my front door when I walked up to the porch.
How long after your mom left did the police knock on your door?
I know now approximately 3 minutes.
And what were you able to do to figure it out pretty well?
My home has a lot of surveillance. My dad owns a security company, so my home had a lot of surveillance outside. So I was just curious, like, how long was it after my mom left that the police came? And I believe it was about 3 minutes approximately.
Can you use the video system to refresh yourself on time intervals and such?
Yeah, yes.
And while we're on that topic, are there timestamps on the clips from your house?
Yes.
And do you have any knowledge of the accuracy of those stamps?
At some point, one of the daylight savings happened, so my cameras were 1 hour off.
And how off? Like which way off were they?
Like if it said it was 5 o'clock, it was actually 4 o'clock.
Okay, so it's an hour ahead.
Okay.
So,
Hour ahead.
all right. So in terms of any clips that come from your house, does the timestamp show hour ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
So are you referring to what's in evidence?
Yes.
Okay, all of those video clips?
Yes, Your Honor. So just want to make sure, did we say that right? That the clips are an hour ahead, or is the actual clip an hour behind?
I have to think about this. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We can come back to it later. I do that all the time. That's okay. How long after your mother left did you hear a knock on the door?
Like 3 to 5 minutes.
Where were you when you heard the knock?
I was sitting on the couch feeding Caden.
What did you do when you heard the knock?
I put the bottle on the coffee table. I got up with Caden in my arms and I opened up the door.
You walked out on the porch and
Porch. So there's like 2 doors. My front door leads to a porched in area. Walked out onto the porch, opened up the front door for 3 police officers.
And who were they?
It was Lieutenant Daly, Officer Noonan, and Officer Houston.
And Lieutenant, let's just go through each of them real quick for a second.
Okay.
Lieutenant Daly, you talked about in terms of training and hiring and all that, right?
Yes.
And what about Officer Noonan? What was your relationship at the time with Officer Noonan?
He had transferred after I had already started. We were on the same shift for a brief time. On one of our shifts, there was a really horrible call.
So we'll get to that, but just
Okay.
generally in terms of your relationship.
That's just like how our relationship kind of even started. That's why I brought it up. That's how we became like texting each other and kind of more than just like, you're just my coworker and I've never talked to you, to we've had conversations and talked about personal things.
Did you think well of him?
Yes,
And to your knowledge, did he think well of you?
I think so.
So now you mentioned a particular call.
Yeah.
And just so we don't have to dwell all over it, it's a call that involves a murder, suicide, and the murder victim is a young baby, right?
Yes.
And when was that call?
It was in August of 2024.
was that response just you and him?
I believe I was the first officer in with Officer Cuevas, and then Officer Noonan came. It was like a pretty much when something like that comes over the radio, everybody starts heading there. But the call was in my sector, so the sector I was assigned to that night. So I was the closest with Officer Cuevas. So we walked in together.
Okay. And just to encapsulate it, the call involved administering first aid, and it was a difficult call.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of the source of when you sort of broke the ice with Officer Noonan?
Yeah, we stood outside of the scene for a long time, all of us, everybody who was on that call, and we talked. And then the chief had asked us to, we were like out of commission for the night. Other officers came in and filled in for us, and we had like a meeting debrief in the chief's office. He had pizza delivered.
Okay. And just in general, fast forwarding all the way to June 30th of 25, did you ever have any problems or issues with Officer Noonan?
No,
Did he ever, to your knowledge, did he ever have any problems or issues with you?
no.
So there's Noonan. And then who's the third officer there?
Officer Houston,
And we saw him testify here as well today, yesterday, right?
yes.
And what was your relationship with Officer Noonan?
Noonan or Houston?
I'm sorry, Houston, thank you.
I was closer with Houston, probably out of the three of the people that were at my house that day. Houston and I were friends. He came to my engagement party. He was invited to my wedding. We have the same type of dog. I think they've met before. The dogs, I mean. Yeah.
He's a work friend.
He was a work
outside.
friend. Yeah.
So these three come to the door. What are the circumstances of how they come in the house? Did you let them in, or how did that happen? I
opened the door and Lieutenant Daly immediately put his foot on my front porch, and we didn't just come in, and I was like, okay, all right.
I didn't hear that what?
When I opened the door, Lieutenant Daly put his foot into my porch, and they just said, we need to come in, and I said, okay.
And then did you turn around and you and Caden walked back in the house and they followed you?
Yes.
So what happened when the five of you, got into the living room area?
Lieutenant Daly asked me to put Caden down in his car seat. They referred to it as like a rocker, it does rock, but it was his car seat. And I was in the middle of feeding him. So when I put him down, he was obviously crying. And I was like, whatever this is, I'm going to hold my son. Because they had a folder. I knew they were going to give me something.
At that moment,
Yeah.
did you have any idea what was going on?
No, I knew, obviously I knew something was going on. The police are in my house, my coworkers, but when they told me to put Caden down, I was like a little hesitant because I'm in the middle of feeding him, and then I listened, I put him down, and he started crying, and I was like, I'm gonna hold my son, whatever this is, like, I'm gonna feed my baby and read it. So I picked Caden back up, and I had him on my lap while I opened the envelope, and that's when Lieutenant Daly said, Justin filed a restraining order against you.
Okay, so you're trying to read it and he's talking to you and the baby's crying?
Nope, baby isn't crying anymore. I picked him up and I'm feeding him.
What did Daly say to you about the situation?
I asked a lot of questions, like why? I was supposed to meet him at the park like a couple hours ago. I'm confused. He said he didn't know anything. And I said, do you have the affidavit so I can read what I'm being accused of? And they didn't. And they said they didn't know the details. And he said that Caden was on it as well. And
Did that affect your state of mind?
yes,
How so?
I knew in that moment I was going to have to hand my 4-month-old to a police officer to be brought out of my house.
How did that make you feel?
I don't know if there's a word. Sad.
Were you able to have a minute or two to kind of comprehend it, or did something else immediately happen?
I comprehended it. I was asked to pack a bag for Caden for about 2 weeks.
Who asked you that?
Lieutenant Daly said the court the court date was in 14 days, so we said pack enough for 2 weeks. And
He said that to you?
yes,
So you didn't take it upon yourself to want to do that?
no, they told me that I needed to pack a bag for Caden because he was gonna go be with Justin for at least the 2 weeks till the next court date.
Who was there when that came up?
That was when the three of them we were all in my living room.
Did Houston or Noonan say anything at this point?
No, I knew if I put Caden back in his car seat, he was gonna cry. He loves being held.
So the plan at that point was to go get some stuff?
Yes,
So you had to put Caden somewhere.
yes.
And what did you do?
I handed Caden to Officer Noonan.
Why'd you give him to Officer Noonan?
I could say I trusted all of them, but I knew Officer Noonan I know Officer Houston has no kids, and I knew Daly seemed like preoccupied, and I knew Noonan had kids, so I guess that's probably what went through my mind, but it really wasn't that much of a thought. I just knew I had to have someone hold him because I didn't want him screaming in his car seat on the ground.
Was he someone that you trusted to do that?
Yes.
What happened when you handed your baby to Officer Noonan?
He took Caden from my arms.
And what about the bottle? What happened with the bottle?
He took the bottle as well.
And what did he do with respect to the bottle and Caden?
He was trying to feed him.
Did Officer Noonan exhibit any resistance or discomfort or anything with respect to holding the baby?
No, I think he said like, "Oh, I haven't done this in a while," like something like that.
What was your intention at that point to do?
I had to pack his bags.
And are you, as you're starting to go figure that out in terms of luggage, what do you need, where's he going, etc., are you having kind of an unfolding thought process, if you will?
Yeah, just a,
I'm just asking her what she's thinking, Your Honor. I mean,
just ask.
what are you thinking?
So I grabbed one of my duffel bags and I first went in the kitchen, and as I was putting the bottles in the bag, it was just kind of like all setting in exactly what was happening, and there was just so many unknowns. And as I was packing things, I was like, okay, Justin just broke up with me via restraining order. We have a wedding in 4 months. Caden is not going to be with me for 2 weeks. That's an eternity for a mom, any mom. And everyone was just brushing over the fact that it was 2 weeks. And I was like, 2 weeks without Caden? Like, and I just kept, in my mind was just going fast. Like, I can't work overtime because I have a son now. I can't afford my home by myself without overtime. It was just, I lost everything. Even my doggy was on the restraining order. Maverick, my dog Maverick, was on the restraining order. So my son,
Your dog or Justin's dog?
he was my dog. So I saw my baby go, my fiance, my dog, my house. And I knew that was going to be my job too. Because whatever I was accused of wasn't good if at restraining order.
And you didn't have the affidavit?
No.
Where did you go after you went to the kitchen with the duffel bag and the bottles?
I went all around the house because his diapers were in one room on shelves. His bottles and formula were in the kitchen. his toys were in the living room, and his books and stuff were upstairs with his clothes.
Tell us what you did on the first floor before you got upstairs. What was the
On the
what was
first
the packing there?
on the first floor was bottles and formula, and he was just getting introduced to like purees, and I had just ordered purees from Target, so I packed all those too. Then I went into the thank you. I went into, it was like our exercise room. It had shelving on the wall, and there was just like a ton of boxes of diapers. I just put those aside and was like, 2 weeks, a lot of diapers, so take the boxes. And then I went upstairs.
All right, before you got upstairs, part of the order was that you had to give up your firearms, right?
Yes.
Did you say anything to the officers about the location of your firearms?
Yes, I did.
What did you say?
I told them that they were in the basement.
Was that true?
No,
Why did you tell them that?
because I didn't want them to take them away.
Why not?
Because I wanted to be alone with my firearm and take my life.
When did you make that decision?
I made that decision as I realized I had just lost everything in a 15-second conversation with my coworker.
Where were your firearms?
They were upstairs in a green safe
In your bedroom?
in my bedroom.
Thank you. So you went upstairs, you mentioned?
Yes.
What was your state of mind at that point, whether or not Justin was coming over or not?
I didn't think Justin was coming over. I knew that Caden was going to Justin, but I would never think Justin was coming over.
Why not?
That's just not like normal practice to put plaintiff and defendant in the same room intentionally. Usually you're doing the opposite as police officers. So I didn't think Justin was in the house.
And the opposite being what? What's the opposite of what they did here?
They let Justin in my house.
So what's the normal procedure?
Normal procedure is to separate people. It's like the first thing you do on any call where there's any sort of argument, you separate.
Now, you've served restraining orders, you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Is there a provision in those orders for accessing property?
I don't know about specific provisions. I can tell you like what I've done before on a call where there was a restraining order involved. I don't know if it's a provision or not though.
Okay, we'll move on from there.
Okay.
So you were going to go upstairs
Yes.
and you had made that awful decision already?
Yes.
What was your state of mind about whether or not you wanted to involve any police officers in that?
I didn't want to involve anybody. I was trying to get everybody away from me.
Why didn't you want to involve any police officers in that? These police officers in particular.
'Cause I wanted to be alone so I could kill myself. I decided that I was going to take my own life. I didn't want to involve anybody else in that. I'll just,
Okay. Did you go upstairs back and forth a couple times or did you just go up there once?
I think I went up I think I went up at least twice. The second time I went up, I was up there for a while.
Do you remember who accompanied you on each of these trips?
It was Officer Houston and Officer Noonan.
Was that the first time or the second time?
That was the second time.
And was there a visit upstairs before that? Houston and Noonan visit?
Yeah, I was trying to hand them things so they would go away.
Where did that happen?
that happened upstairs. So I was first in the room. You walk up, there's a landing. The room on the left is Caden's room. I went in there first and I put books in a car seat because Justin's truck didn't have the car seat. And I handed it, I don't even know who I handed it to one of them. And I said, can you bring this downstairs? And
What happened after you said that?
somebody brought it downstairs and then they came back up.
So you struck out in terms of what you testified to earlier.
Yeah, I just kept trying to hand them things to make them go away.
Meaning, what do you mean make them go away? Be more specific if you can.
Like,
What was the plan?
I knew if I pulled out my firearm in front of a police officer, I would get shot. That was not my intention, and that's not what I did. I was trying to get them away from me, so that didn't happen. So they weren't put in that position because I'm not dumb. I was a police officer. If someone takes out a gun in front of you, yes, that's a threat. Yes, that's somebody that you probably feel threatened from.
So, but if you want to kill yourself, why not just let it happen that way?
That's selfish. I would never do that. Even looking back now, like reflecting for 9 months, I think my decision to do it to myself was selfish to everybody who loves me. So I'll just leave it at that. I wanted to kill myself, me and my gun, no one else involved.
How many different times did you try to have the officers transport some stuff downstairs?
Several.
At some point, did Officer Houston leave the second floor?
Yes.
And that left who up there?
Officer Noonan.
So upstairs it was Officer Noonan and yourself.
Yes.
At some point, did you go across that landing to the other room?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was on the floor packing more clothes in the duffel bag.
In which room?
My bedroom.
Okay,
When
hold
you
on.
walk up
Hold on.
the stairs to the right.
Okay, so you finish up in the other room and you go to your room.
Yes.
All right. Tell us the circumstances of where do you go, where does Noonan go when you go into your bedroom?
So nobody came into my bedroom with me. I was asked, I can't even say who exactly, like I don't know if Officer Houston had come back up at the time, but somebody asked me, who is that downstairs? And I said, I have no idea. And
Let me ask you a little bit about that. What was your state of mind about you being asked that? What are you thinking about?
I was like, I don't know.
Did you hear anybody come in?
No, but they did. Because they were on the landing, they would be able to. I was like more into my bedroom then. So I was like, I have no idea who's here. Shouldn't you guys know?
Okay. What happened next?
Officer Houston walked down the stairs first. Officer Noonan followed him down several steps.
Did that give you a chance to do anything?
That was, I knew, my only chance to be alone with my firearm.
Show you Exhibit 51. What's shown in Exhibit 51?
That's my bedroom. That's the room on the top of the landing to the right.
Where's the photographer standing in this picture?
He's standing in the doorway.
When you went to go get that firearm, was there anyone in your view in that landing?
No.
Was this after you saw Noonan depart?
Yes, his back was turned towards me. He was following Officer Houston down the stairs.
Did he stay that way or did he disappear from that scene?
Well, he must have turned around at some point and walked back up the stairs because
You know how when you're near somebody that's going up and downstairs, you can hear going up and downstairs. Did you hear any particular number of
No,
steps?
I'm certain I heard him and saw him walk down several steps.
Okay. And how did that affect your state of mind at that very instant?
I knew that was my moment.
To do what?
Kill myself.
What did you do?
So that shoebox was not on top of the green safe.
At the time you were doing this?
At the time, yeah, there was nothing on top of the safe.
All right. And you're referring, for the record, there's a orange lined box in the picture?
Yeah, it looks like
Is that what you're talking about?
a shoebox. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Britt, can you just give me a moment to catch
Sure, absolutely.
I'm sorry, did you say that that box was not on the, what did you say about that box?
That box was not there. That the top of that chest, I'm calling it a safe. It's a chest that locks. That's where I kept my firearms. The top of it, nothing was on it. So whatever was placed there after, that was not there before.
Thank you.
Ready to go, Jordan?
Yes.
What about the chair? Is that how the chair was?
The chair was turned the other way because that was the chair I would rock Caden in. That was not facing that way. The back of the chair was up against the wall, I guess.
So kind of like as you'd expect it to be in the room. facing-
Yeah, I would need to pivot like this to be right. So it was probably moved. My room is small.
Okay. And to get at your guns in there, you kind of have to flip up the top of that chest.
Yes.
Where was your focus in terms of the firearm, the chest, whether Noonan's coming back? Where are you focused?
I was just like, hurry up before somebody comes back.
And what did you do?
I grabbed the gun out of the chest. I put it up to my chest here.
So what was going on with you putting it up to your chest? What was that all about? What do you mean when you say you put it up to?
Like I
You
just,
made a motion to your stomach area, right?
yeah, like I just grabbed it quickly. I bent over, grabbed it, put it here, took 2 steps backwards. And I don't want to make the motion of what I did because
You just
it's
say what you
horrible. But I put the gun up to my head,
Which hand? Did you,
my right hand,
and where on your head did you put it? Can you just describe it?
my temple.
Okay. Was Noonan in the door frame by now?
Not yet. He had just walked in, like when I pulled the trigger on myself, with the gun pointing towards my head.
What happened when you pulled the trigger?
He said, Kelsey, no. Kelsey, no. I pulled the trigger. I'm sorry, but I said fuck.
What happened next?
I got shot.
How long after you said that did you get shot?
I don't even think I got to the K in the word before I was shot.
What did that feel like?
What part?
Getting shot in the chest.
Hurt?
Did the force of that bullet knock you in any particular direction?
It knocked me backwards.
Do you recall what happened with your firearm?
I got moved. It was
Well,
on.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
bad question. I'll ask you a better question.
Okay.
Right at that point, as you're shot and you're flying back or falling back or whatever you want to call it, can you remember what happened with your firearm?
It fell out of my hands. It was to my head and it fell out of my hand. And I fell on the ground and the firearm fell on the ground.
Couple of questions before we move on. At any point when you were doing that, when you had the firearm up to your head, was Noonan present during the time you raised the firearm to your head?
Like when I motioned up to my head with it,
Correct.
no, he was not in the room. Nobody was in the room.
When Noonan came into your view, Where was the gun pointed?
The gun was pointed at my temple.
At any point, did you move the muzzle of that gun
No,
towards Noonan?
no, never.
Did you move it anywhere?
No, never,
Did you ever intend to harm Noonan?
never.
What did you know about Noonan's kind of personal circumstances in your time getting to know him?
He was like, so he was a cop for a long time, and I was considered like a rookie. And like after I had like a few really bad calls in a row, and everybody kind of knew it. And the senior guys would like check in on me and give me advice. And he was one of those people, and he told me his own personal experience with like calls and how to handle them when they're bad.
So, what was his family situation?
I've met his wife. I knew he had a son just by like talking.
Did you want to involve him in your tragedy?
I didn't want to involve anybody. I wanted to take my own life. I never pointed the gun at a fellow police officer. It never happened.
When you went onto the ground, what did Noonan do after he shot you?
I thought he walked away and Lieutenant Daly came over to me, and then I think Noonan walked back over to me. And like I couldn't say anything really, but I couldn't breathe. And I think I was just like, why did you do that? Well, I'm like, it hurts. And then I just wasn't able. I said, why? Like, why? And he was holding my hand. Officer Noonan was holding my hand. And I said, why? I was so confused. Why?
Where was Daly?
Daly was there.
What was he doing?
He was on the radio. I don't know what he said exactly on the radio. I'm assuming like.
So, you get shot, and you get shot in the chest, right?
Yeah.
Lower chest. Well, after being shot, how did that affect your ability? I sound like a lawyer, but how did that affect your ability to perceive things, recollect things?
I went into like a huge adrenaline shock. It didn't feel like normal pain. It almost felt like absent pain, but it felt like my entire body was burning, and I was completely alert, completely awake the whole time. I was speaking as much as I could. My lung was punctured, so that's why I was having trouble breathing. But other than that, I was very alert and aware of my surroundings.
Where were you laying in the room?
I was laying between my bed and the wall where the air conditioner is.
Were your legs parallel to the foot of the bed or somewhere else?
I think so. Yeah, I think that they were.
Were you bleeding?
Yes.
Is that the way you wanted this to happen?
No.
What do you remember next?
The fire department got there fast. It felt really fast. They put me in like a bag,
Like a sack?
and like they were all tall guys, and I knew that my ceiling, you would bump your head if you're over like 5'10". So when they were carrying me down, I said, watch your heads. And they brought me outside, and I think when I was still in my house, one of the firefighters was trying to put oxygen on my face, and I was taking it off and just saying, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die.
Did you make any apologies at any point?
I think I said, I'm sorry, I tried to kill myself, I want to die. Like I just didn't understand what just like I don't know what just happened. I tried to shoot myself and then I got shot in the chest. Like nothing really made like I was just in total disbelief and shock.
Did you, at any point before you got taken out of there, did you hear Noonan saying anything about what happened?
No.
Did you see Houston yet?
Houston, yes. He came in and I think he put like medical like gauze on the wound. Somebody did. He had the medical bag. I remember that.
Were you able to sort of perceive the first aid techniques they were administering to you?
No, I wasn't paying attention to it. I was like trying to focus on breathing because it felt like I was choking. Like it felt like I was drowning.
So they bring you downstairs, and at what point in the trip downstairs and out of the house were you trying to take off the mask?
I think the whole time when I was in the ambulance, I said to everybody, I'm a fucking idiot. I just tried to kill myself with an unloaded gun. I'm a fucking idiot. I said that to everybody. I said that to the hospital staff. I said that to all the firefighters. I probably said that when I was laying on the ground. Those were the words I just kept repeating.
What were they doing to you in the ambulance before the ambulance departed in terms of working on you?
They were working on getting a med flight. I had to get a blood transfusion. I finally agreed to keep the oxygen mask on my face, and they were doing my vitals and just trying to keep me stable before I was going to be transported to the hospital.
And what hospital did you go to?
I was flown by med flight to Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston.
So by helicopter?
Yes.
And then when you were in the helicopter, was there anybody that you knew in the helicopter?
No, when I was in the ambulance, I was holding on to firefighter Mertellini's hand.
And can you spell that for the board? It's a funny spelling. Why don't you spell that, if you can?
I don't know. His first name's Kevin.
And it says, let me take a crack at that. Is it Smiertelny?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And did he go in the helicopter?
No, he was holding my hand the whole time I was in the ambulance and comforting me. And I asked if he could go in the helicopter. I didn't want to let go of his hand. I asked, can you come in the helicopter with me? And he said, I can't, no one can.
Okay. So you get in the helicopter, you're getting transported to Mass General, is it?
Yes.
Now, was there another problem with the oxygen in the helicopter?
It either like ran out or it shut off. And when you're in a med flight, you're laying down and there's a person flying the helicopter next to you. And I just like tapped him and like gestured. I can't, like it felt like I was drowning again. Felt like I was choking on, I couldn't get a breath. So I just like told him, like I couldn't talk, but I gestured like to the oxygen that was above me. It wasn't working, and I think they had switched the tank or something, or turn it back on. Something happened, but my oxygen got shut off in the helicopter, and they had to fix it.
Was that indicative of maybe some kind of a change of heart about whether you wanted to die?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to say in those exact moments because it took a lot of healing from the moment I decided to make a suicide attempt to now to be healed mentally. So I don't know what my exact thoughts were in that moment, but I know when I got to the hospital, I said, I'm a fucking idiot. I tried to kill myself with an unloaded gun. How could I be so stupid?
What was the length of time that you were at Mass General?
Like the length from when I was admitted to discharge? It was 53 days.
And how many operations have you had?
I've had 5.
And what were the kind of the main issues that
Objection to the relevance.
Irrelevant?
just the circumstances, Your Honor, of what happened to her?
Sustained.
May I have a moment, please, Your Honor?
Yeah. Take your time. Ross, I need to, let's take a 10-minute break, please.
All right. Stand for the 10-minute recess.
Ms. Fitzsimmons, you may resume the stand. I think we're ready for cross, right?
You know what your comments of police officer, the domestic calls are the most dangerous. True?
Yeah, that could be true.
Could be true. They're the most dangerous, right? That's where.
Yeah. I go into every call thinking it could be dangerous, but I guess domestics are. If that's a fact, then yeah, sure.
Okay.
Can you just keep your voice up?
Yes, sorry.
Sure. Well, okay, we'll step back and we'll go with your. Every call is dangerous, right?
It could be.
Sure. Well, you have to treat it that way.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
Domestic calls, like we just talked about, can be especially dangerous because you're dealing with people who are sometimes highly emotional.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you always separate when you get to a scene.
We will get to that, okay? And I agree with you. They need to keep people apart.
Right.
But you also need to, when you walk into a domestic situation, whether it's a restraining order that you're serving, whether it's a call for some sort of domestic violence, right? You walk in there, heightened sense of awareness. Is that clear to say?
As a police officer, you always have a higher sense of awareness.
Okay. But domestics are kind of a different animal, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
And because emotions are true.
Yes.
And sometimes the opposite of love, hate, is anger, and things can go in 9 different directions in a minute. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
When you're dealing with someone who you know has a mental health past, it can be even more volatile, correct?
Volatile.
Yes.
I wouldn't use that word as it pertains to mental health, sir, respectfully.
There is as a police officer, there's a heightened sense of awareness, right? You're taking all the information in.
In every call, yes. Yeah.
Well, domestic violence calling too. You don't agree with me there?
No, I do. I agree with you on every call. A heightened sense of awareness is key to being a police officer. So domestic, car accident, anything. We go to work in a bulletproof vest.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah, we have to.
When you go to a domestic call, we talked, or you talked, you try to separate them, right?
Yes.
Because if they come together or they're even see each other sometimes, bad things can happen. Right?
Yes.
So when you walk into a domestic violence situation, or any situation, right? Your first order of business is to keep everybody safe. Fair to say?
Yes.
The people who called, right?
Yes.
Yourself.
Yes.
If you have a partner, your partner.
Yep, the other officers. Yeah.
If there are family members there, you want to keep them safe. True?
As a police officer, your job is to keep everyone, including yourself, safe.
If there are children, you want to keep them safe.
Everybody.
So, and if you think there are guns in the house, that is a particularly serious concern for you also, right?
Yes.
For your safety,
Yes.
your partner's safety,
Yes.
for the children's safety, for everybody, right?
For everybody.
And you know that, right?
I know that.
And so you know when you walk into a scene, when you think there may be some mental health issues, that there may be some weapons, that you don't take your eyes off anybody, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You don't let someone walk into a room by themselves,
You
right?
shouldn't know.
You should have, I think with Officer Houston, you should be in their pocket, right?
I'm not familiar with that phrase. Did he say that?
He did.
Okay.
Well, if you're not familiar, you should be right near, right?
Yes.
Because at any point, someone can grab a weapon, true,
True.
use a weapon,
True.
and especially when there's a heightened sense of volatility on someone's calls, right?
Yes.
And you know that as a police officer, correct? And
Yes.
that's just kind of common sense anyway, right?
Yes.
And you've been trained on that.
Yes.
And so you don't take your eyes on any of the parties, true?
True.
You don't leave them alone.
True.
That's what you're trained to do. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's pretty much common sense of what you do.
That's what you're supposed to do. Yes.
Right. Okay. We agree on
We do.
that. Now, if there is you are a police officer, so you know other divisions of the forces, correct? Like SWAT. You understand what SWAT is, right?
I was a very new police officer. I was only on for about 2 years. I'm not familiar with SWAT. I know it a little bit.
Okay, so we'll talk about what you know.
Okay.
SWAT is a special weapons tactical. You know that.
I know that. I don't know exactly what their job functions are.
But you do understand that they respond to highly volatile situations that are dangerous. True.
Yes.
If there is a weapon involved, somebody's barricaded, there's an active shooter, they respond.
Yeah, they go to everything that's bad.
Because they're highly trained to deal with those situations. True.
True.
They're the ones who see guns all the time, see violence all the time, and have to react to a weapon. True.
True.
Because not every call involves a weapon. Some of them are, like you said, car accidents. True.
Every call is very different.
Yeah. And so, but those guys are trained and picked because they deal with that stuff well. True.
I don't know how they're picked or trained. I know nothing about their training or the process of becoming on SWAT.
Okay, but you know to call them if something happens.
That wouldn't be my job, but my supervisors. But yes, we can agree to that. Yes, they get called to bad things. I know this.
They get called to bad things and have to deal with that.
Yes.
And you know that as a police officer, you need to qualify and get trained in order to do certain things. If you're on, like a domestic violence officer, may have to be trained in domestic violence to be in a unit like that. True.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have that on my department, but I have heard of that on other departments. Like a domestic violence detective would probably be trained more in that sense.
Right. So there's sometimes specialties
Yes.
that people focus on. That
Yeah.
people are prepared to deal with better than other people. True.
Yes.
Officer Noonan was on the SWAT team. You know him, right? You know that.
I know that now.
You knew he started in Andover. That's where he began his career.
I knew he started in North Andover.
Andover. And then he went to Lawrence.
Yes.
And Lawrence is really a different atmosphere than North Andover. You agree with me there?
Yes.
North Andover.
North Andover does get the flood of Lawrence.
Sure, there's some crossover.
Yes.
Right? But you know what that crossover is.
Yes.
True.
True.
It's not to disparage any community, right? But Lawrence has more guns than North Andover.
I think so. I don't know off personal knowledge, but I would assume.
They have more gangs.
Yes, that I do know. Yes.
They have more drugs.
Yes.
They have more violence.
Yes.
They have more need for people who can deal with that stuff, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that Officer Noonan worked in Lawrence for years.
I did know that. Yes.
Okay, you did know, right?
Yeah, I did.
And then he came back. Did you say you were on the job or not on the job when he came back?
I was already on the job when he came back.
Okay. And you know he came back from Lawrence, right? And when he came back from Lawrence, it was really, he was the most experienced person on the force at this point, right? From what he had been through.
I didn't know his experiences.
Okay, you knew that he was.
I honestly thought I looked at my lieutenants as that
Well,
for me.
Officer Noonan, back when you were on the job, you looked up to him.
Yeah, I looked up to all the senior officers that were willing to train me or give me any type of advice.
Well, we're talking about officer.
He did that. So yes,
You looked up to him. You knew he was experienced. Correct.
yes,
You knew he was a by the book kind of guy, that he was going to teach you well.
yes.
You went to him for that.
I went to him for advice.
Then you went to him for advice because you thought he knew what he was doing, right? He'd been through the ringers. That's why he went to him, right?
No, he told me, he reached out to me and told me that, you know, he's been on bad calls before and this is how he handles it. And
And
he,
you appreciated it.
I did.
And it seemed like that was true with the advice he was giving him.
Yes, yes,
A gentleman about it.
yes.
Okay. Justin's a different story in your life, correct? Justin, on June 30th, you had said that what was happening was a shooting. I don't know if you used those words, but the demeanor you gave off was this came out of the blue, right?
I was very confused.
You were confused, but stuff, and we're not going to get into it, but stuff that happened that weekend before that Saturday night, that would give you some inkling that something was wrong. Right?
I was aware me and Justin were in an argument. I was aware the second I woke up in the morning. That's why we were planning to meet.
So it wasn't a surprise that there was some strife between you and him at that point.
No, I knew that. I'm saying I was more surprised about being ditched at the common and the police involvement. Those were
But the police had come to your house on that Sunday to check in, correct?
I got accused of.
I'm not asking you what you were accused of.
They came to see if I was okay. They thought I was in a car accident. I was never in a car accident.
But they came to you because they're concerned about you, right?
They thought I was in a car accident.
And on the Monday,
Somebody told them that.
Well, okay, we'll get back to that.
Okay.
On the Monday, you were surprised by this order, correct?
Yes, I was surprised by the order.
And you say that you have no idea why this has happened.
Right.
You eventually think that Caden's going to be taken away from you for a short period of time, right?
You say short, and that's fine. But he was 4 months old, and it was 14 days. That's an eternity for me.
I grant you that.
Okay,
I grant you that.
thank you.
That is a significant amount of time for any parent. True.
Yeah,
Okay.
true.
So I'm sure that was devastating to you, right?
Yes, yes.
And it was Justin who was doing that to you, right? It wasn't the police.
No, right.
It was Justin who went to court, said, I should have custody of that child, correct?
Correct.
And so that's who was doing these things to you, right?
Yes.
So that's who your anger was focused on, right?
I mean, I don't even know if I got to the point of grieving, of anger yet. I don't think I was there yet. But if any of my emotions were directed towards somebody, it would be Justin.
Sure.
Yes.
Because you felt betrayed
I did.
and you knew he was going to get to you.
I knew that I had to give Caden to the police, for the police to give Caden to
You
Justin.
know the police don't take custody of children, right?
I don't know that.
Well, as your time as a police officer, you have actually taken custody of a child and left.
I have.
So you're telling this court, you're telling the judge that if there is not a family member to take a child because something happens, that you actually take the child and leave, you don't call DCF?
Well, you always file a 51A after the fact.
And then they come to the home and they take it, right?
So I guess the call I went on was different. I did end up taking the juvenile in my police car. I drove her to the police station where she met with family members.
How old was this right?
She was maybe 12.
Okay, but we're talking about infants, right? You wouldn't transport it.
No, I guess.
So
Counsel's testifying about facts that prove that it's sort of being suggested as if they're gospel, which might mislead the witness.
So overruled, but Mr. Gubitosi, you can just allow Ms. Fitzsimmons to complete her answer and just like all witnesses, I don't want you folks speaking over one another. Thank you.
So you agree with me that DCF typically comes together in instance, right?
Yes, I've never personally had a call with,
Well, okay, let's just talk about your career. You said
I think so. I can't tell you for sure.
well, let's just talk about your career. When did you graduate the academy? May of 2024?
Yes.
Okay, and you went out on leave on when?
I went light duty while I was pregnant. I was about 20 weeks pregnant when the duty belt didn't clip anymore.
Okay, so, but you went out on February 16th. That was Caden's birthday, right? That's your official leave?
Yeah, that's my official leave.
Okay, so 20 weeks, and he was, so you do the math. How many months were you actually on the road?
Okay, let's see. So like 7 months, and then I was light duty. So I graduated the police academy in May of 2024, and I went out on maternity leave February 16th of 2025.
So you're actually just on the road for 7 months?
Light duty, you're not on the road because you're pregnant.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. And now your choice was stay in the station and work that way, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you're actually on the road, going to calls, doing the dirty work as a police officer just for 7 months, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to jump back to June 30th at the house after the police house, right? You called your mom. You asked to do that and they let you do that, right? There was no prohibition.
You're talking about after the police?
Yes, after the police.
Yes, I called my mom.
And she came.
Yes.
Okay. She came. Now, you call her your best friend, right?
My mom is.
She's your best friend, right? And so you could have talked to her.
Yes.
When Justin arrived, you knew he came in the house, right? You heard him.
No.
You didn't hear him come in the house?
No.
You knew he was coming to get the baby.
I never expected a police officer to allow the victim or plaintiff in a case to enter the home where the defendant is.
Well, you knew he was getting a child. Right?
Yeah, but I thought that I passed Caden off to walk outside. I never thought, or I never knew Justin was in my home.
You knew he was coming to the house?
I thought they would do it at the school, but yes, I knew it was going to be in the vicinity. I never expected or knew he walked through my front door.
When you went upstairs, and we'll talk about that green chest you called it, correct?
Yes.
Was it locked?
No.
Okay, you could just flip it open.
Yes.
When you claimed you pulled the trigger, it clicked.
It did.
It was not around in the chain.
Correct.
There was a full magazine in it, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, you used that gun to go shooting on Friday, true?
That is true. That's why I didn't chamber around. Thank God.
And when you're doing shooting, were you qualifying? What were you doing on that Friday?
We have a qualification. Yeah.
Okay, so you had to do that, right?
Yeah,
Because
because
you're shooting for qualifying when you're at the range. How do you hold your pistol?
2 hands, and then there's some where they say use your strong hand or your left hand. You're not strong.
But your typical reflex is 2 hands, true?
Yeah, that's
2 hands extended.
most of the range day. Yeah.
Right, that's your training. That's the safest way to shoot a gun, true? So that's your default?
That's what we do at the range for those 8 hours, other than the one part where you shoot with your strong and non-strong hands.
So on Friday, you spent hours shooting with 2 hands.
Yes. Yeah. It was Friday. Yes.
Well, I'm asking you.
I think so.
You stated that after the police came and you were starting to process,
Yes.
and it took a bit for you to process things. You about your life on the back.
Yeah. As I was packing things, it just started to hit me like this is going. Just as I was walking around the house, I just was like,
All those things are going, and it's all because of what Justin did.
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Redirect?
No redirect. Thank you.
Okay. All right, you may step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the defense, you can call your next witness. Okay. Aside from what?
You.
Okay. And, all right, so can I see counsel at sidebar along with Ms. Fitzsimmons?